Listen to a conversation between two friends.
I need to buy Phil something for his birthday.
I'm going downtown to pick up my new contact lenses. Would you like a ride?
What time would you be going?
About 1 o'clock.
I have a fencing class then.
I can wait until later if you'd like.
Can you? That would be great. I get out of class at 1:50, but I'll have to shower afterwards. Would 2:30 be too late?
No problem. Shall I pick you up in front of the gym?
There's really no place to park there, and if I'm a little late, that could cause you problems. How about meeting me in the student parking lot behind the gym? I know it's a bit out of the way because of that one-way street, but it might be the safer bet.
That's fine. I'd rather drive a bit more than get a traffic ticket. They're really strict around here. So I'll meet you about 2:30 in the student parking lot. See you later.
What is the main topic of the conversation? Why does the woman want to go downtown? Where are the people going to meet? Listen to a conversation between two students.
I wasn't able to meet Dr. Reed's deadline for that report.
Have you been to see her about it?
Yes, I spoke to her yesterday.
Did she give you an extension?
No, she didn't, unfortunately. But she did give me some ideas on how to organize my material better, so I'll be able to make the deadline for the next assignment.
I could use some advice on how to do that.
I can't remember all she said, but I jotted down the main points. I can make a copy for you.
Could you? I'd really appreciate that.
I'll give it to you tomorrow before class.
Thanks. See you tomorrow then.
What happened to the woman? What did Dr. Reed give the woman? What does the man want? Listen to a conversation between two students. They are discussing plans for the summer.
What are your plans for the summer?
I'm going to attend summer classes.
Summer classes? You're kidding! Aren't you burned out by the end of the term? Don't you need a holiday?
Not really. I don't carry a heavy class load during the year, so I can hold down a part-time job. Then I take a summer class or two that I really enjoy to make up for it.
That sounds like a good idea, but I don't think I could stand taking classes year-round. So, what are you taking?
Geology 306. It's a special course that's offered only during the summer. I'm really looking forward to it. We're taking a 2-week field trip out to Copper Mountain, where we'll be collecting fossils and mapping the strata. Then we'll return to campus to do lab work on our finds.
That sounds fascinating. Why don't they offer it during the academic year?
Unfortunately, the department can't hold classes like these during the year because students are taking so many classes at the same time they can't manage the field trips. Also, the weather in the fall and spring can be unpredictable. It would be hard to do the field work in a snowstorm.
Well, that's true. What other classes have you taken during the summer sessions?
Well, I got university credit for digging on an archaeological site last year.
Oh? Where did you dig?
In Colorado. It was a buffalo kill site. You know, one where the early Americans drove the animals off a cliff.
Did you find anything of interest?
Lots of broken stone tools used for butchering the buffalo.
You must have had a great time. I think I might consider taking some summer classes.
What is the man going to do during the summer? What is not done at Copper Mountain? According to the man, why can't some of the summer classes be held during the academic year? What objects might be found at a buffalo kill site? What does the man imply about summer classes? Listen to a conversation between a professor and a student. They are talking about a particular painting.
Did you hear on the news last night that a Rembrandt has just been returned to our city museum after being out on unauthorized loan for 3 years?
Yes, Dr. Matson. I saw the news last night and was wondering why that particular painting was stolen when there are so many valuable items in the museum.
Actually, that Rembrandt is favored by thieves. It's been taken 4 times in the last 20 years. The museum curators believe it may have something to do with its size, 9 by 11 inches.
That would make it easier to steal and hide, wouldn't it? How valuable is the painting?
Well, it's been appraised at $5 million, but I don't know what a thief can sell it for.
The painting is quite well known, isn't it? It seems that no one would want a stolen painting that's so easily recognized.
It seems that way, but the museum has had to take extra security precautions because of its popularity with thieves.
What are the people discussing? How long had the painting been missing? What reason is given for the painting's popularity among thieves? What is the professor uncertain about? Select the work of art below that thieves would be attracted to. Listen to part of a lecture in an anthropology class. The professor is talking about human migration.
Although we don't think of ourselves as migratory in the way we do of other animal species, people have always been on the move. A few 100,000 years ago, humans migrated from the savannas of Africa and spread rapidly into present-day Europe and Asia. This migration coincided with successive cycles of glacial periods known as the Ice Age, and it probably occurred as humans followed the advance and retreat of plants and animals. Humans survived the bitterly cold weather that prevailed in these regions due to their ability to make things, such as shelter and clothing, but more importantly due to their ability to control fire. Later migrations took humans to Japan, on to Indonesia, and finally to Australia. They also migrated across the Bering Land Bridge into North America and spread quickly down to the southern tip of South America. Later movements brought people to the eastern part of the Canadian Arctic and to northern Greenland. Human migration has not just involved taking over unused land. People have also invaded land occupied by other peoples through killing, displacing, or genetically mixing with the land's existing inhabitants. Looking at today's world, it is clear that we continue to do this. To sum up, migration seems to be a fundamental human instinct.
What is the purpose of the talk? How did people survive the Ice Age in Northern Europe and Asia? What does the speaker say about the invasion of occupied land by human groups? What does the speaker say about human migration? The professor briefly explains a series of human migrations. Put the migrations in chronological order. Listen to part of a lecture in an American literature class. The professor is talking about the writer Jack London.
Today, I want to discuss the life of the writer Jack London. London was born in San Francisco in 1876. His mother was married to a disabled Civil War veteran called John London. The family moved around a lot when Jack was young, and eventually settled in the city of Oakland. As a very young man, Jack worked at various jobs, some menial, but some adventurous. He sailed the Pacific, worked on a fish patrol to capture poachers, raided oyster farms, prospected for gold, and at one time joined an army of unemployed workers. He became acquainted with socialism and ran as a socialist candidate for mayor of Oakland, although he was unsuccessful. Jack was always an avid reader and studied the works of many writers in order to learn to become a writer himself. In fact, he consciously chose the life of a writer in order to escape the unpleasant prospect of becoming a factory worker. The varied and adventurous life he led provided him with a wealth of material from which to create imaginative literature. At first, his submissions met with very little success. However, his disciplined approach eventually paid off, and he gained international renown with over 50 volumes of stories, novels, and essays to his name. His novel, The Call of the Wild, brought him lasting fame, and many of his short stories are considered classics. Other works of his critiqued capitalism, poverty, and alcoholism. At one point, he journeyed across the Pacific in a small boat. This trip provided the inspiration for stories about Polynesian culture. London became one of the best-known public figures of his time. He used his fame to draw support for socialism, suffrage for women, and later prohibition of alcohol. However, his political and social views were considered inconsistent and self-contradictory. For example, his support for socialism was countered by a strong belief in individualism. He supported women's rights, but dominated the female members of his family. In his 30s, London tried his hand at agriculture. He pursued this interest with great energy at his ranch in California, and introduced many practical innovations that were ahead of the times. During this period, he developed a kidney disease, from which he eventually died in November 1916, at the age of 40.
What is the main topic of the professor's discussion? Why did London become a writer? According to the professor, where did London get his ideas for his publications? Why does the professor mention London's novel, The Call of the Wild? According to the professor, in what ways was London inconsistent and self-contradictory? The professor describes London's life chronologically. Summarize his life by putting the events in order. Listen to a part of a lecture in an American history class. The professor is talking about the lost colony of Roanoke.
Some of you may have heard of the Lost Colony, the first English settlement on the North American continent, established in 1585 on Roanoke Island in what is now North Carolina. The original settlers found the island swampy and inhospitable, and relations with the nearby Native Americans soon deteriorated. In June 1586, the original colonists, fearful and hungry, returned to England on some ships that were passing their settlement. Then, just 3 weeks later, ships sent from England and loaded with supplies arrived. Upon finding the colonists gone, the captain left 15 men to hold the fort and left again for England. A second group of colonists arrived in 1587, only to find that the holding force had been killed. The leader of this new group, aware that his settlers needed assistance and more supplies, sailed again to England. But his return voyage was delayed due to war between England and Spain. When relief vessels finally got back to Roanoke in 1590, the crew members found that the fort had been abandoned. Not a trace of the more than 100 pioneers was left. Only one clue to their whereabouts was found. At the site of the fort, the enigmatic word Croatoan, the Native American name for a nearby island, had been scratched on one of the entrance posts of the fort. Elsewhere on the island, the search party found the first 3 letters of this same word carved on a tree. Perhaps the carver had been interrupted and hadn't had time to finish writing. There has been much speculation about this enigmatic episode in early American history. It is generally believed that the unlucky colonists either starved or were killed. Some scholars claimed that there were survivors and that they were adopted by the Native Americans, since the descendants of the indigenous people from this area still claim these colonists as their ancestors. But whatever the fate of the lost colony, the story will always fascinate students of history.
What is the lecture mainly about? According to the professor, what did the people on the relief vessels find in Roanoke? Which of the following may explain what happened to the Roanoke settlers? What happened to each of the 3 groups of people left at Roanoke? Why does the professor refer to Roanoke as an enigmatic episode in early American history?